Well, it's my pleasure to welcome Lazaro Ecenarro to the barbecue tonight. He has done an amazing amount of research, 5,000 pages worth. And so, Lazaro, welcome to the barbecue.
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How did this start for you? This page one. How'd you get onto this?
I started when I listened to Chris Ann Brown, and then I believe Dorset, a judge, and another common law judge, Van Ritz. And when I started hearing what was occurring at Burns, I started started investigating my own independent investigation, and I started reading the Constitution. Once I started reading the Constitutions, I started putting the puzzle together, saying, "How could that be possible?" First, how could that be possible in the United States of America? How can we be dumbed down, and how in the world do we allow it to happen?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You go from a little booklet, the Constitution isn't very big, to 5,000 pages. Your printer must love you.
Yes. When I started looking at the individuals, at the co-conspirators that are involved, I was able to connect all the groups, and they all affiliated with the Oregon Bar Association, also known as the American Bar Association. And I started finding out which bills they were passing and how they were integrated in their capacity. And let's say, like, for instance, Governor Kate Brown, Theodore Ralph Kalunky, a former governor, Gordon H. Smith, a senator, Ron Wyden, another senator, Peter DeVazio, Oregon representative, Earl Bloomer, Oregon representative, Greg Walden, Oregon representative, Darlene Holy, Oregon representative, Jeffrey Allen, or Jeff Merkley, Oregon senator, Ted Fiero, Oregon senator, Cliff Bentz, Oregon representative.
I guess you, Greg Walden. He's tried to come out as, I'm on the side of the Hammonds. They're in his congressional district, but I've seen him as being like totally and completely weak and ineffective. And you're saying he's in on this?
Oh, he's in it to the core. I mean, he's part of this because he was part of the creation of a thing called TRT, which is called Technical Review Team. And on the Technical Review Team, they created ORS, which is called Oregon Review Statutory Laws. These are totally unconstitutional laws.
Yeah, Nevada revised statutes, Oregon revised statutes, Washington revised statutes. That's what they had. That's the Talmudic law that has replaced the common law.
Correct. It replaced the common law, and that's why when you see in the courthouses, it's the admiralty law, because they are operating under admiralty, maritime or law of the sea. Matter of fact, this is intertwined because the same legislators that passed bills for the BLM and the Department of Fish and Wildlife also passed bills on how the judicial should proceed and what laws they should rule on. And that's how they start the land grabbing, the stealing of people's property, land, blood and sweat. And when I started revealing this, or this started just coming out in the open as I started doing my research, I could not believe these criminals. And I was like, well, how in the world can this happen? And I started realizing that they're all part of the Oregon Bar Association or the American Bar Association. And this goes deep. This rabbit hole goes all the way to Pete Rannell. He's a commissioner. Dan Nichols, he's a county commissioner at Harney County. Stephen E. Grassi, he's an important one because he rules like a tyrant. He's in the legislative branch, in the judicial branch, and the executive branch. I mean, within the respective title, like title nobility under Article 1, Section 8 or Section 9.
Yeah, he's on the documents like he owns the town.
Exactly, and he does. Matter of fact, him and a guy named King Williams. Also, he has a son named Zach Williams, and they go from Blue Mountain to Grassy Mountain to John Day. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, there's maps where they laid it out. They've been pre-planning since 2000 the takeover of Harney County and logistically how they were taking over for the purpose of two things. Actually, a couple things. One was for the mines and minerals. Two, the privatization of water, which water now is considered a mineral. And three, the land.
Wait,
and what's ridiculous is...
Hold on. That's a bomb. Water is considered a mineral. They arrested someone in Bend, Oregon for collecting rainwater on his own property.
That is correct. And this is all ties into ORS, which is called Oregon Review Statutory Laws, ORS. And that's how he was prosecuted. He wasn't prosecuted under common law. He was prosecuted under admiralty law. Yes. And these judges like Anna J. Brown, she has money stocks invested in Wall Street. So she benefits from like getting Calico and Uranium One the ability to mine. Matter of fact, right after LaVoy Finicum passed away, a letter was signed giving Calico Resources the ability to start mining for gold. And you look at the stock market right after LaVoy passed away. It's right there in blank.
Clear this up. He was murdered.
He was assassinated, correct.
Yes. And so you say right after LaVoy's murder.
Correct. They signed a letter giving Calico the ability to start mining.
And who is Calico?
Calico Research is a mining corporation which has stocks in Wall Street. It's all tied up to Washington, D.C. and Wall Street and Main Street.
And where are they located? Where's their headquarters?
Well, that's funny. It's just like Uranium One. They're in Canada. Prior to becoming, like, for instance, Calico and Uranium One, before Uranium One, this is all tied to Hillary Clinton with uranium in Russia. But prior to, let's say, Uranium One becoming Uranium One, it was Venture One, which was owned by an Australian company. The Australian company here started established in Harney County. Once that was established, they went ahead and they moved. Venture One became Uranium One and was moved to Canada. That's where Russia acquired Uranium One. But through that acquisition, they also bought the permits to mine here in the United States and get all that uranium. So when you see why we're going to the Middle East to fight, yet we're giving Iran, China, and Russia uranium. I mean, where they're getting the uranium, they're getting the uranium from the U.S. soil. So this is where Calico and Calico Resources and Uranium One come in. You have two, one for uranium and the other one for gold.
Well, it's a little treasonous, does it you?
Absolutely. They're violating Article 6, Section 2, Clause 2. But I mean that's out the door. No constitutional rights whatsoever. I mean, their Constitution's gone. Matter of fact, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 also stipulates who owns that land. It's we own the land. And like I tell everybody, if we're the taxpayers, we're the American taxpayers, and we pay the federal government, right, to protect us and to protect our lands, well, who gives them the authority, or where within the Constitution gives them the authority to lease, sell, or to, let's say, lease, rent, or sell that land? That land belongs to the people through taxation. And it appears we're not getting representation because they're obviously in cahoots in selling our lands to corporations, all for the purpose of mining.
And I'm sure you agree with me and many of the listeners here that the United States, Inc. is the corporation, and the actual organic de jure government is laying vacant right now.
Correct.
We don't have that. It's a corporation masquerading as a government. And this has been going on for a long time. Like, I always bring up the Reconstruction Acts of 1867, and that was like the first time that there was supplanted, but then it just keeps rolling all the way up to the Buck Act and the Administrative Act. That gave
correct. And it started all, like I tell everybody, if you want to seek the truth, just follow the money. First thing you did is follow who funded the Civil War, and what was the purpose of the Civil War. And when you look at it, you see the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, the ones that funded the Civil War. It's no different than the ones that the same family that funded and created the American Bar Association, also known as the British Accredited Registry. Mm-hmm. Through the organization, the Inc. bar association industry, they infiltrated all three branches of government. So their members are in the legislative branch, in the executive branch, and the judicial branch, which our founding fathers even told us this in Federalist Papers 39. Not just in 39, but I mean, they gave it to us on 83 and 84 with the Bill of Rights. I mean, they specifically, our founding fathers told us that not one group of individuals or a person, place, or individual or group should not serve in any of all three branches at once, because that's when we'll get tyranny. I mean, it specifically spells that out, and it's insane how these people just infiltrated even our learning institutions.
Yeah, well, that's what I brought up. But okay, so this has been a real eye-opening thing for you. I mean, what do you think?
It is.
Now, before you started looking at all this stuff, did you think Ammon Bundy was like completely out of his mind, and Clive and Bundy, like, what the heck are they doing?
Absolutely. I came in this like saying they're insane, conspiracy theorists. What the hell's going on? And I was just oblivious to what was going on. But I mean, obviously, I just decided to take it upon myself and a couple of coworkers, and we just started doing our own little independent research. And as we started peeling this onion, we could not believe how corrupt our government is. We no longer have a government. Sadly, I have to say that we no longer have a government that represents we the people.
Oh no, the government's not here for what you think it is. The cops aren't here for what you think the armies aren't doing what you think they're here for. I mean, it's a complete travesty what has become, of our nation.
It is. And my heart goes out to the LaVoy family, to the Bundy family, to the Hammonds, to the 50 ranchers that lost their property. I mean, and put it this way, every case, and this is a fact, everybody can look at Anna J. Brown's rulings with regards to anybody that brings a judgment against the government. All right? You bring a case into Anna J. Brown, she will rule 90% of the time with the government. But the most insane, I'm trying to find the right word, but she gets $5,000 every time she sides with the government. That's insane.
They're kind of pikers. Should they get money? The judges get money every time they put somebody in federal prison. It doesn't come on their paycheck, but they get it in their retirement, is what I understand.
Well, exactly. And I challenge anybody. I mean, anybody that wants to, that does not believe me. As a matter of fact, I'll challenge you. I challenge anybody, go to USC 4502 through paragraph 5404. Which encourages prosecutional and judicial conflict of interest and violation of due process of Bill of Rights, which allows Brown to violate her oath of office. So under that, 5 USC, pages 4502 through 4504, you'll see how they get money. It's insane. As a matter of fact, they can. There's a thing called delegation orders of January 17th, 1983. Manual pages 1,229 to 1,291. Encourage payoffs for judges like Anna J. Brown, which explains why she bought property in Wyoming cash. In Wyoming, and had the ability to patent it from the BLM. So she purchased land from the BLM and patented it.
Okay, now explain to people what a land patent is.
Basically, maybe the 1% gets the ability meaning nobody can touch that land. That is yours, outright. It's like God saying, that is your water, basically in lay terms. And they call the document an instrument. So the legal terminology they use is instrument. But at the end of the day, they patent it.
Yeah.
So it's basically pure gold.
And there are people around the country that are trying to buy up patented land patents, so they can live, because it creates like you're an enclave within the jurisdiction, and so where they
of your own place. Right,
exactly.
Like Beaufort in Colorado, like Beaufort Population 1, like something like that, similar.
Right.
That happens, and I mean, I just don't understand. It astounds me the ability of how these bar members have the ability to be better than we are. I mean, I mean, it's obviously they're not representing us. They're looking out for their best interest, and through that, they use the BLM. I mean, all you got to do is just follow the BLM, every act the BLM is doing. What's the purpose? What's their motive? And you'll see that all they do is take the land, they'll destroy the whole entire land, and then they'll go and they'll sell it to corporations to go ahead and mine.
Oh,
and they're all into it.
Lazaro, please. They're preserving it for future generations, don't you know?
Yeah, and you know, and you wonder about that, especially with the satellite that Harry Reid. Well, a couple people have investments into the satellite that's in the stratosphere, where it pins all the minerals, and it goes through. And Harry Reid's one of his friends, he's a geologist named Gregory Neal, which his son is a deputy director of the BLM named Neil Cronzy.
Yeah.
So Gregory Cronzy is a geologist, and Neil Cronzy is the principal deputy director of the BLM.
Yeah, Neil Cronzy was Harry Reid's assistant for a long time, like worked on his staff, and then Harry named him head of the BLM.
Correct. So then that's where Stephen E. Grasty and his brother Ben Grasty go ahead and they plot and they coordinate. He needs a CGI or SGI, basically a land surveyor. And they plot where all this minerals are. That's why the Hammonds are. It's a perfect example. When the BLM went over there with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, or they call it the Oregon Fish and Wildlife, they were looking at and we're obviously where they started pinning the satellite up there. They found a gold mine. It's gold mine of uranium where the Hammonds are sitting, and the water rights are amazing. But I mean, with regards to the flow of water, is what we're talking about. But if they get that flow of water, is what the water comes with water rights, and so when they went out there, they were sitting in a gold mine. So they've been trying to figure out how to get rid of the Hammonds. So if we allow the government to do this to the Hammonds and to the Bundys, well, and we don't stop it, then what's going to happen with our children? What are we going to leave for our children? What are we going to leave? I mean, what is there for our grandchildren? Not just our children, but our grandchildren.
A complete totalitarian police state.
This is worse than Russia. I mean, we're living in America, and they're sending our military to go fight in the Middle East for freedom. Yet when the same criminals that are running our government are the ones that's stealing the lands and the water and all the minerals from us.
Well, I'll tell you.
I mean, just from the underneath our noses.
Well, the whole ruse in the Middle East is nothing what you think it's about either. And if you looked into that, you'd be just as shocked at how corrupt that is. And so,
oh, absolutely, just follow the money.
Follow the money. Follow the money. Okay, so what else? Tell us about my friend Judge Aiken, Ann Aiken. Tell me about her.
So Judge Aiken, she's a pretty interesting character. She has a family member that's tied into this, and named Zach. So Zach and Jack, and I apologize. And through I believe inside conferences, Aiken ruled against the Bundys, obviously because of Stephen E. Grasty, and actually there's another guy by the name of King Williams, because this is important, which his son is Zach Williams, and what they wanted was this land, and in order for them to get this with Grasty, and you can go back to the 2002 meetings, the town hall meetings. You can see how they systematically and orchestrated this. So in order for them to get that, they had to get Aikens on their side. And the only way to get Aikens on their side was to somehow through criminal mischief, have this young kid that has a disability to testify in respect to them causing a backfire. Now, if anybody understands, I didn't know what a backfire was, but if anybody reads what a backfire is, it's a common thing. When you have one fire coming towards you, you start a backfire so it can extinguish the other fire, which is normal.
Very common in ranching, and they actually used, I think it was a cousin, Dusty Hammond, who was only 13 at the time of the fires, and they manipulated him and just He's mentally ill, a completely incompetent witness. And that's the
correct, and that's fraud upon the court. I mean, anybody that knows anything about talking about what's the court proceedings, that's fraud upon the court. And one thing about fraud has no statute of limitations, because all these co-conspirators, like the Commissioner Dan Nichols, Rhonda Carges, that was directly involved, Commissioner Pete Runnell, Stephen E. Grassi, Representative Cliff Bentz, all these ones that have started the TRT and the ORS, they're co-conspiring, and they know what's down there where the Hammonds are at. That's why they put them in jail. And what's so crazy about this is that now, if the Hammonds were to sell today, they have to sell it to the BLM.
I know.
Not anybody else or whoever they want. It has to go straight to the BLM. Well, ask yourself, why the BLM? Why not me?
Because because that was the stipulation. And they had to come up with $400,000, and when they came up with $200,000, that's when they decided to retry them and put them back and make them serve the 5 years, because the impossible was starting to look possible, and they didn't want them to be able to raise that full $400,000 and keep their ranch, which I mean is horrendous. But the stipulation is that they have to sell it to the BLM. It's as crooked as the day is long.
Well, absolutely, and you know, what are we going to leave our kids? Should we sit as Americans? Should we sit back and allow this to happen, or you know, sit down and watch our NFL, watch our basketball, drink our beers, go out and play dominoes, football, pool? Do we allow this to happen? I mean, and then in 20 years from now, we'll look at our kids and then look at our grandkids and say, "What happened? What of America we gave you?" I mean, do we allow this, and do we sit back, and do we tolerate it, or do we go and support the Bundys and the LaVoy and the Hammonds and the Finicums? I mean, what are we going to do as a society? I'm just trying to figure out, what are we going to do as a society? What's the direction we're going to do? To
me, it's now or never. You know, if they get away with this, if they get away with, you know, prosecuting Clive and Bundy and the rest of the Bundys, I don't know if you didn't hear the beginning of the show. They're trying. They want to get Arden Bundy, who turned 18 on Monday, for his role in the standoff, where he carried a flag when he was 16 at the standoff. I mean, these are thugs that we're dealing with.
They're criminals, and the same criminals. These criminals running our entire judiciary, our government. They're all part of a bar association. Yeah. So I mean, just look them up. You'll see them.
The Department of Justice, I've come to think of them as a cross between the KGB and the Mossad. And Eustace Mullins had some great work on them. I'd like to read some of his work about that later, but, you know, on another show. But, I mean, it's absolutely incredible, this whole assault against the American way of life. And we've been lulled to sleep with it. You're a young man. You don't remember the 1960s when we were dancing to Dick Clark in the bandstand and the Beach Boys, and everything was hunky-dory, and everything was wonderful. They lulled us to sleep. And they took, you know, now you go to school and they call the Founding Fathers insurrectionists in the textbooks.
Yep. And, you know, that's part of the Common Core. All this has been systematically orchestrated. And, you know, the funny thing is, all this money's coming through George Soros, through the Democratic Party, through campaign contributions. And the campaign contributions always goes back to the lobbyists. And you look at the lobbyists and find out who pushed that agenda. It'll go back to the lobbyists and then find out who paid the lobbyists to push the agenda. And when I looked at this spider web, it all goes through George Soros, the Rothschilds, and the Rockefellers. The money trails, it's insane. And the good thing about it is I was able to articulate this and get all the evidence, and I'm able now to show the world the documents itself. The documents would speak for itself, but in a chronological order, to say this is how we've been brainwashed. This is how we've been infiltrated. Now, what are we going to do?
Well, okay. So what do you think? You're just waking up to this. You've gone through 5,000 pages. 5,000. When you got one thing, then you order something else, and you got something else. I mean, a large book is about 400 pages. 450 pages is a hefty book. You've gone through more than 10 books in just 2 months worth of really bone dry reading. I mean, except because you were following the money, it had to be pretty exciting. But I mean, most people would not have the fortitude to do what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, there are a lot of Americans out there that probably, probably do as much research as I do, and probably having the ability to come and bring this out, and then the ramifications behind this, and exposing what's happening. I believe that if we do not stand up together as a group, as united as one, then I mean, how many people do you expect to come out like whistleblowers? I mean, every time there's a whistleblower that comes out and says this happened, how come we don't rally behind that whistleblower? It's today's news and then tomorrow's distraction. I mean, and this is what happens every time. And people come out. I mean, they expose the fraud that's perpetrated upon we the people.
Dancing with the Stars is on. You know, you got to watch that. I mean, it's really a shame that the Americans are so low information anymore. That's the nicest thing I have to say about them. But I'm encouraged that someone your age woke up to this and said, hey, wait a minute here. I mean, and then dove in and did this research. What are your friends saying? What did your friends think of this when you started looking at this together? What was
well, the good part of we were extremely supportive. Well, we were skeptical, obviously. The first thing is skeptic, and we thought we were delusional. We thought they were delusional. We were like, this can't happen. And then as soon as we started unveiling and coming out with stuff, I said, there's no way we can stop. There's no way. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to seek the truth. I'm going to see what these guys are actually fighting for. And I had tremendous support in respect to certain friends and colleagues that were extremely interested in what's going on. And one of them is actually in particular is having problems with his family members having a problem with the BLM. And I took it upon myself to go ahead and start doing this. And I had a lot of encouragement. And they said, all right. And I go, well, what do you need? And I said, well, get some paper. And then I started purchasing paper, thumb drives, and we just started going at it. And we went systematically, individual by individual. And within my list, I have about 200 names. But the main core of the individuals is about probably like 80 people involved. The main actual hitters that are involved in legislative in Washington, D.C., and inside Hardin County. Well,
is there any, have you got any political people in Hardin County that aren't involved?
My understanding there are. Actually, some of the citizens are tired of this. They're the ones that are getting raped by this.
Yes.
And it's scary. Matter of fact, I showed one gentleman where the BLM profited $2.4 billion. Let me reiterate that. $2.4 billion in 1 year. On top of it, they call it PILT, P-I-L-T, which is a payment in tax. It's more or less like that. So what happens is they're going to out of taxing the people there, they're going to get an additional $304 million through taxation, which is grazing, oil, minerals, and I believe it was livestock and some other stuff there, which was ridiculous coming from Harney County.
Yeah, well, Harney County used to be the most prosperous county in the state, and now it's second from the bottom because of this theft. And you know what? I got to tell you, somebody has texted me here, and they'd like to know how old you are, if you don't mind.
My name's Lazaro, Lazaro. My last name's Ecenarro, Ecenarro. And you can find me on Facebook.
Yes, and how old are you? How many years young are you?
I'm 42.
Yeah, this is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Someone your age waking up at this point and saying, usually people can't see things like this, Lazaro. They cannot. I mean, after their brainwashing is complete, a man named Yuri Bezmenov, that's what his code name anyway, Yuri Bezmenov, he said after 15 to 20 years of brainwashing, people, even when you show them photographic evidence, can't see it. Yet you took the blinders off and really took a look at this.
Yeah, and in the beginning it was scary. because you were wondering what is going on.
Wow.
And you didn't know, what would happen the next day. And I mean, you just questioned everything.
Now,
as I say,
I don't mean to be negative here, and we'll tap for you for safety. But you're revealing some stuff. You've got 5,000 pages of documents. Do you feel like you're at risk at all?
I will find out here in a couple of days. As soon as this actually comes out, now the entire documents come out public.
Mm-hmm.
They will be coming out public. I believe there's a couple individuals that are extremely interested. That I gave a town hall. I was in a town hall. I was in Oregon. I was in Portland. Oregon, in front of City Hall, and I showed 15 people about these documents that I have. And I laid them out in a 6-foot table, and actually took more than that. And I went one by one explaining them. It took about good 3 to 4 hours to explain each individual in chronological order and naming each co-conspirator and how they were involved. And actually, 2 people from Harney County, Burns, Oregon, saw these documents, and they were baffled. They do have thumb drives. They do have copies of these documents in the thumb drive, and the exhibits. Stephen E. Grasty and Anna J. Brown's information, and then it actually expands off of that.
Right, and that's how I met you. I actually saw you on a video from that meeting in Portland, and that's what Tom Davis has been on, several weeks in a row. I'm sure you know Tall Tom. I'm sure you met him in Portland. He's a rodeo stock guy and stuff in Burns or outside of Burns. And so, yeah, I mean, this is big stuff. So what's your next move? We're not going to be able to go over all of this. What was the thing that to you was the biggest bombshell in all this?
Hillary Clinton with uranium won. Giving uranium to the Russians. Selling the United States of America for $23 million for her own campaign contribution.
Wow.
That was the biggest bombshell to me. Was she's running for president. She was a Secretary of State, willing to sell out the United States of America for $23 million. And on top of the $23 million, but give uranium to Russia, where Russia's going to give to Iran. That was the biggest bombshell. I was baffled. How in the world are we going to say? How can we justify to send our military overseas to fight for our freedom when we are arming our enemies?
Yeah, well,
how is that possible? How can we look at our military in the face and say, "Thank you for going over there, and thank you for being out there and being so patriotic and putting your life on the line and the sacrifice of your family while we arm our enemies"?
Well,
how can we do that to our military?
To me, I know men in the military usually go with the highest, thoughts of being patriotic and supporting their country. They've been brainwashed into that. But we're just really the attack dogs for Israel, and so in keeping the world safe for communism. I mean, that's all we're doing, destabilizing countries, going in and brutalizing civilians. In 700 military bases worldwide, we should be ashamed of ourselves. I say support the troops. Yeah, bring them home and let them protect our borders and close our borders. And nothing against military men. I mean, they go with the best intentions, but then they get there and they find out it ain't what they think, like Pat Tillman, and then they can count on some friendly fire, and then they'll name a bridge, in your honor, but you're dead.
Yep, absolutely, and it's a damn shame. And I mean, I can't even to look at the Pat Tillman's family, it just or look at his kid and say, your dad was a brave man, but at the same time, our country assassinated him or betrayed him. I mean, how can we do that? I mean, it just astonished me that we can actually sit back and allow this, and what they're doing to our veterans after they come back, and we don't even take care of them. My government doesn't even take care of them. It's astonishing how we can just let our military go to waste. The way they make it look like they're expendable, and that is just heartbreaking. I mean, I don't even know. I just get irritated.
Henry Kissinger said it right when he said that military men are just dumb animals. That's all they use them for. Yes, someone's just tuned in. As a matter of fact, buddy, I'm going to tell you right now, the figure that Lazaro gave earlier is that the percentage of judicial rulings in favor of the government versus private parties was over 90%. And I think that's got to be across the board, Lazaro. That's not just in Oregon. It's not just with that judge. It's everywhere. They are just henchmen for the bar and in the KGB, so Department of Justice.
Yeah. And, our founding gave us, our founding fathers gave us the Second Amendment. Our founding fathers gave us a militia. We either we do it through a pen, we'll do it through our voice, or we'll do it through, all the other means that I don't even want to get to. But I think that we have the ability, if we all stand as one in one voice, we can change America. We can transform this country from coast to coast. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're brown, white, black, Hebrew, Jew. We're Americans. At the end of the day, we're Americans, and we're all going to face the same price. And until somebody comes and tells me there's a way to get away from taxes and death, then by all means, please show me.
Yeah,
but until then,
Lazaro, don't you see this is the biggest thing that they've created, this dissatisfaction with all the racial groups, and this has all been orchestrated to keep us at each other's throats, and so we can have no unity. And that's what's going on in South Africa. You are exactly right. We need to turn and look at who the real enemy is, and the real enemy are these Marxist communists that are creating this totalitarian, just just cage all around us. And you're exactly right. But what's disgusting to me is, either they do it through subversion and infiltration to go into groups and create the chaos, or they just appeal to our own egos. That's our own weak suit that we can't agree about anything. I mean, I call it the autism spectrum disorder. That, for Patriot autism spectrum disorder. I mean, they have low information, the Fox News people on one end that think they're conservatives when they're not. And then you've got the high functioning law dogs on the other end that know. But then everybody in the middle, and nobody can agree. And you're exactly right. We need agreement. We need to put all the differences aside and just agree that we need America back. And so you are a big fan of, maybe fan's not the right word. The courts are completely corrupted. What do you see as someone that's just waking up to this? What's your gut reaction? What's the solution to this terrible corruption in the courts?
Challenge the courts. Challenge the court's jurisdiction. Ask them if they're in a constitutional courtroom or under admiralty. Have it on record.
Yes. Well,
as soon as the American people have this on record, you will find out by their words if you are in a constitutional republic courtroom or you are in the admiralty courtroom.
Well,
then you would understand the truth.
That's what Cliven Bundy did when he at his arraignment, and he said, "I will plead. I will be happy to plead if you will show me that you have jurisdiction over me." And the judge refused to answer him, and so he put in his plea on his behalf.
Well, guess what? That's unconstitutional because according to federal rules, or federal law 28, disqualification of a judge, it stipulates there in their own manuals that they cannot practice off the bench. So what he did is unconstitutional because he cannot. Let me clarify. He cannot. What do you call it? Enter his own plea.
Exactly.
The judge cannot enter his plea under federal law 28, disqualification of a judge. I want everybody to look at that, disqualification of a judge. It tells you there that they cannot practice off the bench. Who the hell is this judge to practice off the bench? No judge in this world has a right I don't care if you're an admiralty. I don't care what court. You have no right to enter a plea for anyone. That's number one. And not my rules, but their rules. That's what they put on Chapter 28, disqualification of a judge. But the problem is we've been dumbed down. And we have not read Chapter 28. Not a lot of people, but I mean, I was blessed that I had the opportunity and the ability to read it. And it states that. And I told that to Michelle Fiora, the representative. I even gave her the link. I even took pictures of the link saying, look at this. Why is he entering a plea on his behalf? As soon as he did that, he is automatically disqualified in presiding in his case.
Preach it, brother. I love hearing this. I really do. You give me hope that people in America can wake up. I mean, I feel like I'm here week after week preaching to the quiet. And what Buddy says is protest every appeals court across the land. They are the final say in cases of judicial bias. Do you agree? Did I lose you, Lazaro? That was what.
Yes. No. I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay. Yeah. He says we have to challenge the appellate courts, but I think it's a mess, and I think it comes down to leaderless resistance, and that it's going to take more than this. I hope it doesn't. I hope we can do it in the courts, and I'm praying every day and putting that intention out to the universe that. But
at the end of the day, my thing is, and like I told Michelle Fiora, what number one, is the attorney going to do a motion for dismissal with regards to the judge practicing on the bench? The judge has no ability to practice on it. He has no ability to tell the prosecutor what to do.
Oh, well,
so why is there not a motion going on right now? There should have been a motion as soon as he wrote the first letter on that that instrument, because remember they call it instrument or document, not paper. Once that judge took it upon himself to enter a plea for Bundy, he should have automatically been recused, disqualified of a judge. Federal law 28, not my law, their law.
Yeah, well, I think that's awesome, and I just get disgusted with so-called, politicians that think of themselves as lawmakers. We don't need any more laws. We need to be repealing laws, not making new ones. That's what's
right, and that's where ORS comes in. Because if you look at Nevada's district with regards to their rules,
yeah.
And matter of fact, one of Michelle Fiora's, Michael, I forgot Michael something, his last name. He's running against Michelle Fiora for Congress. He's actually he's in cahoots with the BLM, and you look up his law firm. I have this information, but I didn't expect you to talk about this.
They will finance his campaign heavily to go against her. That's how they do it. They'll put up a campaign. Heavily.
And he's tied in with ENN, which is Harry Reid's partner company, is what I call it, which is brother to his son Rory Reid. But ENN and another company called Barrick Gold Inc., BARRACK Gold Inc. They're in cahoots with Michael. So that's why Michelle Fiora is going to have a stiff competition when it comes to running against this guy. This guy is dirty as to the core. I already have his financial campaign contributions, how he's affiliated with Barrick Inc. Gold, the Chinese, and ENN, and then on top of it, how he does international law, which is totally unconstitutional, violating Article 6, Section 2, Clause 2, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. He's violating those two, and then another one, which is Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, with regards to the law of the land. But remember, they're operating under admiralty, so he can say, well, I'm operating under admiralty. I do not recognize the Constitution. So guess what? That's basically a slap in the face telling us that this guy's all he cares about is piracy and profiting off our lands with the Chinese. The other thing is he's also operating with Oregon under the ORS, the Oregon statutory laws.
Yeah, Oregon
and he's
right.
Yes.
Yeah, and so here's the thing, Lazaro. Maybe you see it this way. I think Ryan Bundy is taking the best course of action as a pro se litigant. I think the rest of them that are hiring lawyers are making a huge mistake because the lawyers all are members of the Bar Association.
That is correct. And guess who is the chief board director of the Bar Association?
Well, who would that be?
Anna J. Brown.
Hey, listen, I know a case in Spokane, a federal court in Spokane, where the prosecutors couldn't argue, the judge would argue off the bench for them. I mean, it's unbelievable how corrupt the judiciary is, and they picked Portland in particular because they know they control them so well up there, and that's why they chose to arrest Clive and Bundy in Portland and not here in Nevada.
Oh, absolutely. Put it this way. Matter of fact, I've given information to Michael Arnold's law firm with regards to accusing Anna J. Brown, as I articulated earlier, and her being also the chief board, right? So basically, she reviews everything, which is insane. It's already a conflict of interest itself. But when I gave a document, one of the few documents of the 4,000 plus pages, 5,000 plus pages that I have, I gave him just I guess something for him to relish. I gave him a little carrot. As soon as he saw my true affidavit, he looked at it. His eyes got huge. I had a friend of mine named Deborah. She was with me, and we saw his eyes. He grabbed my document. He threw it to the prosecutor. The prosecutor looked and started reading and grabbed that document and tossed it back to him. And they didn't want to do anything while David Fry was trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And I was telling him, and I'm pointing at David Fry, Deborah and I trying to get the attention of David Fry to point him to the document. And we were like, grab the document and give it to your lawyer. The lawyer had no way wanted to do anything with that document, with a true affidavit. He looked at us like we were crazy. As soon as he came out, I told him, "What, you were in a kangaroo court? Are you planning to throw this case away?"
Yeah.
And all he did was he got mad. He got red to the face and just kept walking.
Oh yeah, does that make your stomach turn?
Oh, it did. It did, because I'm giving him the evidence. He's getting everything you can possibly get without him investing $1 in an investigation. I did the investigation for him. It's free. It's here you go. That's it. Present it to the court.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, how did Mike Arnold receive it? I know you say he was wide-eyed over it and just shocked, but is he going to get any mileage out of this? Is he going to use it?
We right now, my understanding is they have a strategy. The documents speak for itself, as I stated earlier. It definitely has a lot of teeth, a lot of credibility. They know it has credibility. My understanding, this Wednesday, there's going to be some fireworks going on in that courtroom. It's going to be packed. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'll have the ability to get there, but it will be packed from my understanding. And what you saw last 2-3 weeks ago with regards to the rally of having 300 to 500 people there, I think this will probably double it just because of the information that I have that's coming out. And the last time I spoke at the city hall.
Okay, so what's the hearing this week that's coming up this week?
This is throwing the case back to Nevada.
Oh, that's right. They're coming back to the Nevada. There's a hearing on the 13th, and then they have
true
back.
Well, but look at this strategically. Right now, anything right now that Anna J. Brown has done, in every little motion that she has filed right now, or pleaded in the entire hearing from the beginning to what it is on Wednesday, is null and void.
Exactly.
Just for the fact that disqualification of a judge, meaning she had to recuse herself because she had financial gain out of this through monetary gain.
Yeah, well, they all do. It's called, and then they've got the securitization beyond that. Every piece of paper they sign, it's like cha-ching. And so, yeah, I hope they'll go after this judge. I really do. I just, we've got to figure out someone with standing. Again, I think Ryan Bundy's the best person as a pro se litigant to be using it. But you're
absolutely. And
we're running.
I spoke to Patrick.
Hold on. We're running out of time. I want people to know that they can find you on Facebook. Okay, Lazaro, Lazaro Ecenarro. All right, you can find him on Facebook. And you're going to be making a video, a YouTube video of all your documents. Okay, showing stuff, correct?
Correct.
Okay, you're going to make it in maybe half-hour segments and stuff so people can, digest all this, right?
Correct. Yes, we're going to do a half hour to 45 minutes per individual. It's going to be long and intense for the simple fact that it's a lot of information, as you said, and we're going to try to cut it down into 45-minute segments of each individual that is a co-conspirator to this case, or regards to the BLM and the Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Awesome. And so, Lazaro, let me ask you, this has been like going to law school the hard way in 2 months.
Well, actually, I started learning a little bit of law and started doing more of this for the fact that my custody case. And after spending $78,000 into the custody case and paying and basically having my money stolen from these crooked bar members, I started realizing how corrupt it was. And my case was a little bit different, and I'll touch on that because it affected Senator Ted Stevens and Senator Nancy Schaefer. And I have the documents to validate that, and this is why is one of the reasons why I picked up this torch.
Yeah, Nancy Schaefer and Ted Stevens are both dead. Nancy Schaefer was exposing the criminal racketeering of Child Protective Services.
Correct. And if you go to my Facebook, you'll see my letter from Senator Ted Stevens. But Senator Ted Stevens was working with my case, and my case number is 3AN061234, Alaska. Senator Ted Stevens was actually working with my case with Senator Nancy Schaefer because the mother of my child was found substantially neglectful in 4 consecutive times by 4 different social workers, but never lost her parental rights.
Wow.
And the only reason why she never lost her parental rights was because of who her sister is, which is Marissa K. Flannery, and she works for a big oil company. So at that time, a couple things happened. I gave the documentation to Senator Ted Stevens. He had me sign 2 waivers. One to send the documents, my documents, to the FBI, and the second document to Senator Nancy Schaefer. During that process, she wanted to expose it. And the whole entire Child Protective Services, and was going to use my documents in Washington, D.C. to defund Title IV and the whole entire criminal enterprise in Child Protective Services.
Well, this is rodeo.
At this time, yeah, she goes on to the Alex Jones show and exposes this. And she actually went to Alex Jones about 3 times, 2 to 3 times on the Alex Jones show, exposing this. And she was going to release all the names of the judges, congressmen, and senators, and judges and lobbyists that are part of the racketeering, which is called child trafficking, or also kids for cash, is what she called it. So when
you've got to come back on. Let's do this again next week.